The desert of Conan Exiles bears little thought for most. This arid, sandy expanse seems little more than a canvas upon which to paint your story of survival, designed to push people north. However, this desert is far from natural, and today we're going to discuss why. This is a topic I have briefly covered in other videos, but it really warrants its own. So, without further ado, let's begin. As we stand on the sands of the Exiled Lands, it's evident that things are not exactly normal. A dry desert in the south, swamps and jungles to the east, highlands and tundra in the centre, and snow-lashed mountains in the north. Some of these climates should never exist together, but they do. The desert is where we find our focus. The Exiled Lands is an ancient place, older than us, older than the ruins, older than anything we set our eyes on, yet it has not always been this way. Eons before now, the Lemurians fled the cataclysm and their sinking homeland. They sailed west, escaping the vicious Kari and searching for a new place to call home. Within time, they landed upon the eastern shores of the place we now call the Exiled Lands. Exploring this strange area, the Witch Queen herself documented her findings.
It was a fertile land, rolling grasslands, and temperate hills that gave way in the far south to the dryness of a desert. In the north were mountains, but not the snow-covered mountains that we had seen on our journey, just jagged rocky peaks, and a swamp, thick and brooding, that lay over the eastern part of the region like a shadow.
The Witch Queen describes a land only partially reminiscent of the one we see now. The swamps remain, but other aspects are different. The mountains in the north are dry, untouched by the snow that now covers them. Desert lingers in the far south, but within the borders of our prison were rolling grasslands and temperate hills. That being said, how can we be certain she is speaking of the desert as being grasslands? Clyael the Warmaker, the final living Giant King, confirms as much after the triumvirate fled south from the battle at the Shattered Springs.
Those who survived fled south to lick our wounds. In ages past, this was the most fertile land in our empire.
During the age of the Giant Kings, the desert we now find ourselves within was far different, a rolling, fertile grassland, which explains the odd patches of grass and the seemingly anomalous presence of features not usually found in a desert. Now that we are certain this was once a grassy, bountiful land, how did it become the desert? To find out, we must take a step back. For many years after their arrival, the Lemurians and the Giant Kings lived in harmony. The Giant Kings held their kingdoms in the place now known as the Unnamed City, and they gave the swampy east to the Lemurians, where they constructed the city of Zelhar. The two existed in relative peace, trading and communicating, forging slave bracelets not as an act of subjugation, but technology to facilitate communication between the races.
We could not speak their language, but our sorcerers and theirs came together and worked a powerful ritual. Enchanted gemstones enabled our communication. We forged bracelets to hold them. Thus could our communion with the Giant Kings begin.
However, despite their cooperation, the two races had many differences. The Giant Kings were slow, deliberate people, living for hundreds if not thousands of years. They were also small in number, as their reproduction rate was incredibly slow.
But the Giant Kings became alarmed, I suspect, at the rate at which we gave birth. Theirs was a people who took centuries to reach childbearing age, and they remained few in number.
The Lemurians birthed many of their own, too much for Zelhar to house. They risked encroaching upon the lands of their hosts, the Giant Kings. Thus, scouts were sent further afield to find new lands to call home, into the far north, where the Giant Kings did not reside. There, within the volcano, their scouts found a great horror. Through a dark passage to the bowels of the earth, the Lemurians found the last remnants of the Serpent Men of Volusia, an ancient and primal enemy of man. There was only one solution.
We confronted the Giant Kings and the Triumvirate with their darkest secret, and they did not deny it. I gave them an ultimatum: to give us the Northern Lands, to stay their hand while we exterminated the Serpent Men. They refused. War was inevitable.
The Lemurian uprising began. War spread across the Exiled Lands, beyond the kingdoms of the Lemurians and the Giant Kings. Armies rose and fell. The sorcery in the bracelets formed walls of guaranteed death at the borders, and Tyros the Deathbringer and his silent legion turned on the Giant Kings. The war came to a head with the battle at the Shattered Springs, where the Lemurians utilized a new deadly weapon.
During the skirmish in the north, the humans revealed a new weapon, forged of their strange science. It smashed through the ranks of my troops, turning those captured in its blast into solid stone.
Their army decimated, the surviving Giant Kings fled south, and that is where we will finally answer our question of what created the desert.
During this moment of weakness, the Priest King came to me with a proposal. A new ritual to counter the human sciences. A powerful magic to scour the landscape and drive them forth.
The Priest King presented the Warmaker with the Scourge Stone. This was more than a mere rock. It contained an enslaved sand elemental. The Priest King instructed the Warmaker to release it, and he did just that. The fragments scattered across the soil, and the elemental brought an enormous sandstorm, hurtling towards Zelhar to end the war in one fell swoop. However, the Priest King had not reckoned with the power of the human spirit. Petruso, a Lemurian priest, confronted the coming sandstorm and used the power of Dagon to bind the elemental to his flesh, preventing it from destroying Zelhar. However, the priest paid a terrible price. The sandstorm was not stopped, but simply put into a loop. Time after time, day after day, the sandstorm scourged the Exiled Lands over and over, unable to complete its task.
I unleashed the magic that created the sandstorm, and I lost control of it. I betrayed my people to a slow, dwindling doom.
The sandstorm battered the grassland until the soil could resist no more. The hills were worn down to rock and sand. The once fertile land burned down to arid desert, spelling doom for the Giant Kings. The desert of Conan Exiles is not natural. It is a result of a magic construct, a devious plot of the Giant Kings that backfired, resulting in their downfall and their eventual extinction. Of course, this is all without speaking of the quiet virus of serpentine influence that bled through the staff of the Triumvirate, but perhaps that is a topic for another video. The Giant Kings ultimately caused their own downfall, but also created the difficult circumstances we find ourselves in today. The harsh desert, the massive sandstorm, all a product of them. Conan's desert was created by accident, but nevertheless, it is not natural. There are also the mountains in the far north. The snow that covers them is not natural. It's unrelated to the Giant Kings, but just like the Whispering Staff, that's something we can discuss in a future video if you guys would like. Anyway, that wraps us up for today, and now you know why Conan's desert is not natural. Thank you for watching, and of course a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. Check out the Lore Videos playlist for more Conan stories explained, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Take care, and I'll see you soon.